The corridor is colder than the rooms. That's the first thing Hannah tells me. The second I step through the airlock at 9:52 on Tuesday night. She's standing in the buffer zone in a heavy quilted jacket the color of dishwater, holding a clipboard against her chest like a shield, and she says it without looking at me. Corridor is colder than the rooms. Don't ask why. Wear the jacket the whole shift. Even when you sit, okay, I say. There's a spare in the locker, smaller than mine. Should fit you, okay. She turns and walks. I follow. The facility is on the eastern edge of Woj, in an industrial park behind a fence with razor wire on top, and from the parking lot you can't tell what's inside. It looks like a meat processor, or one of those companies that sterilizes hospital linens. Break time equal 5s, the sign at the gate just says the company name in lowercase, and a logo that's a circle with a line through it. Inside, the corridor we're walking down is a long gray hallway with white tile to waist height and gray paint above, lit by fluorescents that hum at the frequency that lives behind your eye. The doors on the left are numbered, 7 of them. Each one has a small porthole window at face height and a keypad below the handle and a digital readout above showing the internal temperature in red. Room 1 says 28.4, Room 2 says 29.1, Room 3 says 28.7. They go on like that. You read the handover? Hannah says without turning around. I read what they sent. What did they send? The procedure manual. 40 pages. The chain of custody form, the fire protocol. That's nothing, she says. Break time, 05s. That's the version you give the auditor. She stops at room 4 and types a code on the keypad. The door clicks. She doesn't open it. She turns and faces me for the first time, and I see her properly under the fluorescence. She's maybe 55. Her hair is the color of cold iron and pulled back tight. Her eyes are the gray that goes with that hair. She has a thin scar that runs from the corner of her left eyebrow down past the temple and disappears into the hairline. She's not smiling, but her mouth isn't unkind. She looks like someone who has spent 19 years not being surprised by anything. What's your name again? She says. Marta what? Marta Kravchuk. Marta Kravchuk. She lets it sit. First night? Second. I did Monday with Pan Wojcik on days. Wojcik is a baby. He's been here 4 years. A break time 0.5s. He doesn't know anything. Tonight you learn the actual job. She pushes the door of room 4 open. The cold comes out of it like a slap. I have the jacket on, and the cold still goes through me, a flat hard pressure against the front of my body, and I take an involuntary step back. Hannah doesn't move. She holds the door open, and inside I can see a small room maybe 3 meters by 3, with metal racks on all 3 walls, and on the racks are the boxes. White insulated cartons, each one labeled, each one with a barcode and a date. Frost has built up on the lower racks. The light inside the room is the same fluorescent as the corridor, but it looks colder, blue shifted, the way light looks when it passes through ice. Inventory's there, she says, nodding at a clipboard hanging from a hook beside the door. You count it twice an hour. Break time 05s, eyes only. Don't open the cartons. Don't move them. Don't touch them with your bare hand even when you have gloves on, because if you sweat through the glove, the box will know. The box will know. The barcode reader reads the temperature differential. It logs it. If you mark a box as inspected and the differential says you put your hand on it, the system flags it. Then the next day they audit the room. Then you're suspended pending investigation. Okay. Pretend the boxes are landmines. You count them with your eyes. You do not love them. She closes the door. The latch clicks. The readout above the door updates. 28.9. It was 28.4 30 seconds ago. The cold from the open door has crept in by half a degree. You let cold out of a room, the room tells on you, she says. Compressor logs every cycle. Break time 0.5s. Every minute the door is open is 40 seconds the compressor runs to catch up. They have the audit on a 6-month review. Wojcik gets dinged for it every quarter because Wojcik is sloppy. You're not going to be sloppy, no good. She walks me past rooms 5, 6, 7. We don't open them. She tells me the contents in the flat voice of someone reading a grocery list. Room 5 is corneal tissue. Room 6 is bone allografts. Room 7 is pediatric. She uses the word pediatric and does not slow down. At the end of the corridor, there's an 8th door. It is not numbered. It has a porthole window and a keypad and a temperature readout, the same as the others, and the readout says 31.6, which is colder than any of the other rooms. The door itself looks identical except that it has no number on it. Break time 0.05s, and the keypad has a small piece of clear tape stuck across it with a thin line of writing on the tape in faded blue ballpoint. I can't read what the tape says from where I'm standing. I open my mouth. Don't, Hannah says. I didn't say anything. You were going to ask what's in room 8? Yes. It's not room 8. There are 7 rooms. I look at the door. I look at her. She's looking at the door too, with her jaw set. with the clipboard still pressed against her chest. Hannah, I say, there's a door there. There are 7 rooms, she says. That's what the inventory shows. That's what the manual shows. That's what the auditor sees. There are 7 rooms, okay, I say, slowly. But there's a door there. She turns and looks at me. The gray eyes go very flat. Marta, listen to me. You're going to be tempted. Break time 05s, around 3 or 4 in the morning, to ask about that door again. Don't. I will tell you what you need to know about it before the shift ends. Until then, you walk past it. You do not stop in front of it. You do not look through the porthole. You do not type anything into the keypad. If you do those things, the rest of the shift is not going to go well, and I am not going to be able to help you. Do you understand me? Yes? Say it back, walk past it. Don't stop, don't look, don't touch the keypad. Good. She turns and walks back up the corridor toward the buffer zone. I follow. The unnumbered door is at my back, and I can feel it the way you feel someone watching you in a hallway, an attention with a temperature, and I make myself not turn around. The buffer zone is a small room with a desk, 2 chairs, a kettle. Break time 05's a mini fridge with somebody's lunch in it. A portable heater on a long cord that nobody is allowed to plug in inside the corridor, and a wall of monitors. 6 monitors. 1 for each cold room. 6, not 7. Hannah sits down at the desk and pushes the second chair toward me with her foot. She switches the kettle on. She does not look at the monitors. Tea? Yes, please. There's milk in the fridge. It's mine. You can have some. She makes the tea. The kettle clicks off. She pours 2 mugs and pushes one across the desk to me and sits back and finally takes the quilted jacket off, hanging it over the back of her chair. And underneath, she's wearing a navy sweater that's been washed so many times the elbows are almost translucent. The collar of her shirt under the sweater is buttoned all the way up. Break time 05's, there's a thin gold chain around her neck with something on it I can't see. So, she says, tell me about you. What do you want to know? Why this job? I take a sip of the tea. It's strong and slightly bitter. The milk is on the edge of turning. It pays better than the lab work I was doing. And the schedule. Nights mean I can keep doing the morning class. What class? Conservation. I'm finishing a master's, paper conservation. I work mornings at the university archive. Paper conservation, she says. She turns this over. So you know about handling things you can't touch in a way, and you know about cold rooms. A little. The archive has a film vault. I've been in it twice. What temperature? -5 for the active vault. -15 for long term. She nods slowly. Break time 05's. This is colder, I noticed. This is colder because what's in the rooms is alive. Not the way you are alive. But the cells in the bone, the cells in the cornea, they're suspended. Below -20, the water in the cells stops forming new crystals. Above -20, it does. Every flux above -20 does damage that can't be undone. So the rooms run at -28. They have to. The compressors run 60% duty cycle. The backup generator is tested every Sunday at 4 in the morning. Okay. Woodchick told you all that, some of it. Woodchick didn't tell you that the compressors are louder at 3 in the morning than they are at any other time. No, they're not actually louder. The building is quieter, so they sound louder. Around 3, you'll notice it. You'll think something is wrong. Nothing is wrong. Break time, 0.05's. It's just the building going to sleep around you. Okay, she watches me drink the tea. I am aware, in the way you become aware of things in interviews, of being assessed. Her face does not move while she does it. Then she says, I'm leaving at the end of this shift. They told you. They told me. Did they tell you why? They said you'd been here a long time and you were retiring. I'm 54. I'm not retiring. I'm leaving. That's different. Yes. She finishes her tea in one long swallow. She sets the mug down. The mug has a chip on the rim that's been there long enough that the chip has gone smooth. She looks at the bank of 6 monitors and says, without looking at me, I have to decide tonight whether to tell you about room 8. I wait. I've been deciding for 3 weeks, she says. Break time 05's, since they confirmed your start date. I have not made up my mind. I want you to understand. The reason I haven't made up my mind isn't because I don't want to tell you. It's because telling you means you have to make the same decision I made 19 years ago. And once you make that decision, you can't unmake it. And it isn't a fair decision to ask somebody to make on their second night. What was the decision? She looks at me. Marta, I'm not telling you yet. I'm telling you that there's a decision, so that you know it's coming, so that you have some hours to think about whether you want me to tell you or not. What happens if I say I don't want you to tell me? She is quiet for a moment. Then I leave at 7 in the morning and you take over the keys and the routine and the inventory. Break time 05's, and you do the job the way Wojcik does the job the way everybody on day shift does the job. And room 8 sits at the end of the corridor at minus 31.6, and you walk past it twice an hour for the next however many years you do this job. And one night when you've been here long enough, you'll start asking yourself what's in it. And you'll be alone. And there will be no one to tell you not to look, okay? And what happens then is that you will look. And what's in the room will be exactly what it has been at minus 31.6 for 19 years. And you will see it, and you will have to decide what to do about it, by yourself, on a night shift, with no one to help you. Okay, that's option 1. What's option 2? I tell you tonight, while I'm here. Break time 05s, and you decide what to do about it with me sitting across the desk from you. And whatever you decide, I help you do it before I leave at 7. She lets that sit. The compressors hum. One of the monitors flickers and resettles. The kettle ticks as it cools. Take your time, she says. Count room 1 first. The count is due in 8 minutes. I count room 1. The procedure is exactly the way she described it. I stand in the doorway with the door propped open the minimum amount on the floor stop, which keeps the gap to about 30 centimeters, and I count the white cartons rack by rack, top to bottom, left to right. There are 81 cartons. The inventory sheet says 81. I sign the sheet, write the time, write my initials, and I let the door swing shut. The latch clicks. Break times 05s. The readout above the door climbs from 28.6 to 28.9 and starts to drift back down. I walk back to the buffer zone. Hannah is sitting at the desk with her hands wrapped around the empty mug. She has not put the jacket back on. She is looking at the bank of monitors, but I don't think she is seeing them. 81 in room 1, I say. 81 is right. I sit down, the chair is cold through my jeans. I pull the quilted jacket closer. Hannah, yes. How long have you been thinking about leaving? She looks at me. She thinks about whether to answer. 11 years. 11 years. Since the last person they hired to replace me changed her mind. Somebody was supposed to replace you 11 years ago. Yes. What happened? She did the shift with me. I told her about room 8. She made her decision. Break time 05s. Then she went home and slept on it and called HR the next morning. And quit just like that. Just like that. And they didn't hire anyone after that. They hired 3 people. One didn't make it through the trial week. One stayed 6 months on day shift and transferred to logistics. One stayed 2 years on nights with Wojcik and never asked about the door because Wojcik doesn't know. Wojcik doesn't know. Wojcik has been here 4 years. He's never worked a night with me. He has worked nights with the woman who stayed 2 years, who didn't know either. Day shift doesn't see the door the way it looks at 3 in the morning. Day shift comes in at 6. The building is loud. The trucks are coming. There's a delivery. There's another delivery. The auditor calls. Break time 05s. Day shift walks past room 8 the way you walk past a door in a hotel corridor. Night shift is different. Night shift is when the building tells you what it is, and nobody on day shift knows about it. My supervisor knows. The supervisor before her knew. The director knows, sort of in the way directors know things that they are not supposed to write down. There's a budget line. The compressor for room 8 is on the building's electrical, not the facilities. It doesn't show up on our power audit. It shows up on the buildings, but the buildings is one line and one line doesn't itemize. So the company doesn't know. The building's facilities manager knows there's an additional compressor on the circuit and bills the company for it as part of the lease. The company pays it as overhead. Break time 0.5s. Nobody has ever asked what the compressor is for. There is no line in our budget that says room 8 cooling. She pauses. She looks at her hands. Once a year, an electrician comes to service it. He comes at night when I'm on shift. He doesn't go in the room. He services the compressor from the maintenance corridor on the other side of the wall. He has been doing it for 19 years. Before me, he serviced it for the man who had this job before me, who had it for 26 years. The electrician is 68 years old. When he retires, they will have to find another electrician. Who is the electrician? His name is Tomaz. He lives in Pabianis. Does he know what's in the room? He doesn't know specifically. He knows there's a room. He knows it has to stay at minus 31.6, break time 0.05s, and that if it ever goes above minus 25, he is to call me at any hour of the day or night, and that I will come in regardless of whether I am on shift. In 19 years, he has called me 3 times. What happened those 3 times? Twice it was a sensor issue. The temperature was fine. I came in and verified and we replaced the sensor. Once it was real, the compressor was failing. I came in at 2 in the morning on a Sunday and we ran a portable unit off the maintenance corridor while he replaced the compressor. It took 11 hours. The room got up to minus 26.1 before we stabilized it. What happens if it gets above -20? She does not answer immediately. I don't know, she says. I've never let it. I count rooms 2 and 3. In room 2, the cartons are smaller. There are 140 of them, and the inventory says 140. In room 3, the cartons are mixed sizes, and there are 63 of them, and the inventory says 63. The compressors are running the whole time. The corridor is colder than the rooms in the sense that the rooms are sealed and the corridor moves air. I keep the jacket zipped to my chin. I walk past the unnumbered door twice. Both times I do not look at it. I do not stop. I do not even slow down the second time. I think I hear it, not from inside. From the door itself, a sound like a fingernail dragged once across the metal. Very soft, the kind of sound you can talk yourself into not having heard. I do not stop. I do not slow down. I walk back to the buffer zone. Hannah is making more tea. The kettle has just clicked off. Break time 05s. What did you hear? She says without turning around. Nothing, Marta. A sound. Like a fingernail. On the door, yes. Inside or outside. On the door itself, I couldn't tell. She pours the tea. She brings the mugs to the desk. She sits down. Outside, she says. It's always outside. The metal contracts unevenly at -31. There's a strut on the inside of the door frame that pulls on the housing as it cools. It makes that sound about 6 times a night. It's the building. Okay, do you believe me? Yes, you should believe me, because it's true. It is the building. It is not a thing inside the room. It is metal pulling against metal in a way you can hear because nothing else is making noise. By Thursday, you will not hear it anymore. Your brain will file it with the compressor noise. Break time chick never hears it. Okay, but. She waits. But the reason I'm telling you it's the building, she says, is that I want you to know I'm not protecting the door from you. I'm telling you what's true about the door. The strut sound is the building. That part is real. I'm telling you the true small thing so that you know that when I tell you the true big thing, later, it will also be the truth. Okay, I am not in the business of lying to you, Marta. I have only ever lied to one person in this corridor, and she was the woman they sent to replace me 11 years ago. And I lied to her by telling her too little, and she made her decision on the basis of too little. And I have thought about it almost every night since. I am not going to lie to you that way. The question is whether I tell you everything or whether I tell you nothing. Break time of 5s. I will not tell you a middle amount. I drink the tea. It is too hot. I drink it anyway. Hannah. Yes, why did the woman before me quit? Because I told her too little. I told her about the room. I did not tell her about the practice. What practice? She looks at her hands. I'm not ready, she says. I'm sorry. I'm not ready to tell you yet. Okay, count room 4. In room 4, I count 72 cartons. The inventory says 72. I sign an initial and let the door close. I walk back. I do not look at the unnumbered door. The clock above the buffer zone desk says 1:23. Hannah is sitting where I left her. Her tea is untouched. She is watching the monitors. I sit down. Hannah. Yes. Has anyone ever opened the door? She does not turn her head. Yes. The man who had this job before me. Once. Break time 05s in 1978. Before the room was running cold. The room was a storage closet. He opened the door, and he found what was in it, and he closed the door, and he turned the compressor on, and he kept it cold for the next 26 years. And he handed the key to me in 2004. And he told me what to do, and I have done it. What's in the room? Marta, Hannah, I need to ask you something first. Okay, if I tell you what is in the room, I am going to ask you to make a choice. I will not pressure you to make the choice I made. I want to be clear about that. The choice is yours. The 2 options are these. The first is that you take this job and you keep the room at -31.6 for the rest of your working life, the way the man before me did, the way I have. Break time in 05s. The second is that you call the police tonight when I leave at 7 in the morning and you tell them what is in the room and you let them open it and you let what happens after that happen. Okay. I want to say one more thing before you make the choice. Okay, I have spent 19 years deciding whether I made the right one. I still do not know. I am telling you this so that you understand the position I am putting you in. I am not telling you because I want company in the decision. I am telling you because the man who hired me told me, and the woman who hired him told him, and I cannot end the chain by leaving without telling. If I leave without telling you, the compressor will fail in some year that I do not know in advance, and the electrician will call a phone number that does not go to anyone anymore. Break time E.5s and the room will warm up, and what is in it will be found by somebody who has no preparation and no choice and who will have to make a decision in a hurry instead of with hours to think. Okay, so I have to tell you. I'm sorry. I have to tell me. She tells me. I will not write down here exactly what she told me. I want to be careful about that. I am going to tell you the shape of it because the shape matters. And because I think I owe whoever reads this an honest account of what was said in the corridor, but I am not going to write the specifics, because the specifics have the names of two people in them. And those people had families, and the families do not know, and it is not for me to be the person who makes them know by writing it down where anybody can read it. The shape of it is this: in 1978, break time, 05s, the man who had the job before Hannah, Stefan, she told me, Stefan Borowski, and he died in 2011 of an entirely ordinary heart attack at the age of 73. Opened a storage closet at the end of a corridor in a facility that did not yet exist as a tissue bank. The facility at that time was a different kind of facility. It had been a different kind of facility under the previous government, and the previous government had used parts of the building for purposes that the new government after 1989 had not fully accounted for. Stefan had been hired in 1976 as a night watchman. He had keys to most of the building. He did not have a key to the closet. The closet had been locked since before he started. In 1978, the lock failed. Stefan was doing rounds. 5s. He tried the door because his rounds required him to confirm every door on his route was secured, and the door opened. What was inside the closet was two people. They had been inside the closet since some date Stefan never determined. Sometime in the early or middle 1950s, and they had been inside the closet under conditions that had preserved them in a state that Stefan recognized, when he opened the door, as not entirely consistent with death. I am being careful with the language here because Hannah was careful with the language. She did not say alive. She did not say dead. She said not entirely consistent with death. Break time. 05s. She said that Stefan had stood in the doorway of the closet for an unknown period of time. He told her later he thought it had been about 3 minutes, but he could not be sure, and he had then closed the door and gone to the maintenance room and brought back a padlock and put the padlock on the door and gone to his supervisor's office and used the supervisor's phone to call a man whose name he had been given when he was hired by the supervisor before that supervisor for emergencies. The man on the phone told Stefan 3 things. The first was not to open the door again. The second was that a refrigeration unit would arrive at the building within 48 hours and would be installed against the closet's external wall. Break time .05s. The third was that Stefan was to stay on the night shift indefinitely and was to monitor the closet's temperature for the rest of his working life, and that when he was ready to retire, he was to find a replacement and to teach the replacement the same monitoring, and that under no circumstances was the door to be opened by anyone for any reason. The refrigeration unit was installed 41 hours later by 2 men who did not speak to Stefan and who did not return. Stefan monitored the closet for 26 years. The closet became, under the various changes of ownership of the building, a numbered room in a tissue bank. The room was given the official designation Room 8 in some database somewhere. And then at some point during a database migration in 2001, break time 5s, the designation Room 8 was quietly removed from the inventory system, and the room ceased to officially exist. Stefan was not consulted about the change. He noticed it on a printout one Sunday morning, and he understood it, and he said nothing. In 2004, Stefan hired Hannah. He hired her because she had applied for the night shift position, and because when he interviewed her, he asked her a question whose answer told him she could keep a thing without needing to share it. The question, Hannah told me, was about her mother. She did not tell me what the question was. She did not tell me the answer she gave. Stefan handed Hannah the keys at the end of a Tuesday night shift in November of 2004. He told her what was in the room. Break time 05s. He told her the same 2 options he had been told. Monitor the room for the rest of her working life, or call the police and let what happened after that happen. He told her, as I am being told, that he could not leave without telling her. She made her decision in the buffer zone with him sitting across from her. He left at 7 in the morning. She has kept the room at -31.6 for 19 years. I count room 5. I do not remember walking to it. I remember leaving the buffer zone, and I remember coming back, and I remember nothing in between. Hannah does not ask me what the count was. She watches me as I sit down, and she takes the inventory clipboard out of my hands, and she looks at it, and she nods once, which I think means I got the count right. We sit for a while without speaking. The compressors hum. Break times 05s, the fluorescents hum at a slightly different pitch. The kettle has cooled. Somewhere in the building a fan kicks on and then off again. The clock above the buffer zone desk says 3:11. The building is quieter than it was at 1. Hannah was right about the compressors sounding louder at 3. I can hear them as a single low note that vibrates in my sternum, almost too low to be a sound, more like a pressure. Hannah, yes, why are you leaving? She thinks for a long time before she answers. My sister has cancer, she says. Pancreatic. She has between 4 and 8 months. I want to spend it with her. I cannot do this job and also do that. Okay. That is the practical reason. Is there a less practical one? She looks at me with the gray eyes. I have spent 19 years, she says. Break time have 05s as the only person in the world who knows what is in that room. I am tired. Okay. I do not regret it. I want to say that. I do not regret what I have done. I think Stefan was right. I think the man before Stefan was right. I think there is a version of telling the police where everything that follows is worse, for everybody, than what we have done by keeping the room cold. I have thought about this for 19 years and I still think it. But I am tired, Marta. I am very tired. And the tiredness is the reason I am giving you the choice properly. Stefan did not give me a real choice. He gave me the words of a choice. He had been alone for 26 years, and when he handed me the keys, his hands were shaking. I made the decision he wanted me to make because I could see what it had cost him not to make it. Break time 5s. I am trying not to do that to you. I am trying to give you the actual decision. Okay. And I want to tell you that I will not be hurt if you call the police. I will not feel betrayed. I will not think you have failed me. I have thought about calling the police myself for 19 years, and I have not done it, but the not doing it was my choice, and it does not have to be yours. If you call them at 7 in the morning when I leave, I will tell them everything I have told you, and I will sign whatever I need to sign, and I will accept whatever follows. I want you to understand that. The decision is yours, and I will support whichever decision you make. I look at her. What do you actually want me to do? I say, Marta, I'm asking. I know you said the decision is mine. I'm asking what you actually want. She is quiet. Break time's 05s. I want you to keep it cold, she says. I want you to keep it cold for the rest of your working life, and then I want you to find somebody and tell them. I want that more than I have wanted anything else in my life. I want you to know that I want it. And I want you to know that wanting it is the reason you should not make your decision based on what I want. Because if you make your decision based on what I want, you will be making it for me, and you will resent me in 10 years, and the resentment will be the thing that makes you open the door. Decide for yourself, or do not decide, and call the police. Both are okay. The clock says 4:30. I have counted rooms 6 and 7. The cartons are where they should be. The temperatures are where they should be. Break 5s. I have walked past the unnumbered door 4 more times and I have not looked at it. I am sitting in the buffer zone. Hannah is across from me. Her quilted jacket is on the back of her chair. Her gold chain is visible above the collar of the sweater now, because she has unbuttoned the top button. There is a small medal on the chain. I cannot see what is on the medal. I do not ask. Hannah, yes. Tell me one thing. Okay, you said the man on the phone, in 1978, told Stefan a refrigeration unit would be installed within 48 hours. Who was the man on the phone? Stefan did not know. Did you ever find out? No? Did you try? She is quiet for a moment. I tried for about 3 years. I called the number Stefan had given me. The number had been disconnected. I went through the building's records. Break time 05s. The compressor's installation invoice does not exist. The men who installed it were not employees of any company I could trace. I spoke to a man in the city archives who knew vaguely that the building had been used in the 1950s by an institution that does not appear on any of the lists of institutions from that period. He could not tell me which institution. He told me he was old enough to remember that some of the institutions from that period did not appear on lists. I stopped trying after that. Okay. There is no one to call, Marta. That is one of the things I want you to understand. If you call the police, you will be calling the police of a country that is 2 governments removed from the country that put the people in the closet. The police will be confused. They will be respectful. Break time .05s. They will open the closet and they will find what is in it, and they will not know what to do with it. There will be an investigation that will not lead anywhere because everybody who could be charged has been dead for 50 years. There will be a story in the papers. The families, if there are families, will be contacted. The families, if there are families, will be told that the people they did not know what happened to spent 70 years in a closet at minus 31.6 degrees, and that the bodies are now warming up and decomposing in a way that has been delayed by 70 years, and that the families can have the bodies for burial. She pauses. That is one option, she says. I am not telling you it is the wrong option. break time 05s. I am telling you what it looks like. The other option is that the room stays at minus 31.6 for another 40 years, until you hand the keys to somebody else and they make the same decision, and the room stays cold for another 40 years after that. And then eventually somebody will say no, maybe in 50 years, maybe in 80. And by then the people in the closet will have been there for 120 or 150 years, and the families will be 3 generations further from caring, and the news story will be smaller, and the country will be a different country again, and the opening will be more like archaeology than like a crime. You think that's better? I don't know if it's better. I know it's what Stefan thought, and what the man before Stefan thought, and what I have come to think. Break time 05s, but I do not know if it's better. That is the truth. I look at the clock, 4:41. I need to count room 1 again, I say. Yes, you do. I count room 1. There are 81 cartons. I sign an initial. I walk back up the corridor. I stop at the unnumbered door. I have not decided to stop. I am stopping. My feet have stopped. I am standing in front of the door, and I am looking at the porthole window, and I cannot see anything through it because the inside of the room is dark, and the glass is frosted on the inside from the temperature differential. I am looking at the keypad. I am looking at the piece of clear tape across the keypad with the thin line of writing in faded blue ballpoint. The writing says, in Polish, Hannah's number. Call before opening, and then a phone number with the area code for Łódź. I recognize the area code. Break time 05s. The phone number is one Hannah gave me earlier when she walked me through the emergency procedures, and she said it was her personal mobile and that I should call it any time, day or night, for any reason, even after she had left. I am looking at the keypad, and I am thinking about how the tape will need to be changed when she leaves. I am thinking about whether I should write my own number, under hers or over hers. I am thinking about whether the next person in 40 years will need to add their number under mine, or whether they will peel the tape off and put a fresh piece on. I am thinking about the kind of pen the writing is in, faded blue ballpoint. Stefan's pen, probably. I am thinking about whether Hannah keeps the same pen in the desk and whether she will leave it for me. I am thinking about the room the way Hannah thinks about it. Break time 05s, that is what I am noticing. I have been in this corridor for less than 7 hours, and I am already thinking about the room the way she thinks about it. I am thinking about the practical questions of inheritance. I am not thinking about the people inside. I make myself think about the people inside. I make myself think about them as people, not as a temperature reading, not as a thing that has to be kept cold, as 2 people who were put in a closet in the early or middle 1950s by other people whose names are not known and who have not been punished and who are now dead. I think about who they were before they were put in the closet. I think about whether they had families who waited for them and who have now stopped waiting. I think about the family's great-grandchildren, who are people my age, break time Łódź 05s, walking around Łódź or Warsaw or Berlin or Tel Aviv or Chicago not knowing. I think about whether keeping the room cold is a kindness or a continuation. I think about Hannah saying, I do not regret what I have done. I think about whether I believe her. I think about the way her hands were not shaking when she said it. I think about Stefan's hands shaking when he handed her the keys. I think about whether her hands will shake when she hands me the keys at 7 in the morning. I think about whether the not shaking is something I want. I walk back to the buffer zone. Hannah is at the desk. She is putting the empty mugs into the small sink in the corner. She turns when I come in. You stopped at the door, she says. Break time .05s. Yes, for about 3 minutes. I didn't realize it was that long. It was. How did you know the compressor in room 8 cycles every 90 seconds? If you stand in front of the door, your body heat is enough to add about 1/10 of a degree to the corridor side. The compressor compensates. I can hear it cycling from in here. It cycled twice while you were standing there. Okay. She dries her hands on a dish towel that has the name of a bank on it. She turns and looks at me. Have you decided? Yes. Okay, I'm going to call the police. She is very still. Okay, I'm sorry, Marta. Don't be sorry. Tell me why, because if I keep it cold, I will be okay for 10 years and then I will start to be like you. And I do not want to be like you. I am sorry. I do not mean that as an insult. I mean it as a description. Break time 05s. You are the strongest person I have met in a long time, and you are tired in a way that I do not think a person should have to be tired for 19 years, and I do not want to be that tired in 19 years. And I do not think the people in the closet care whether the news story is big or small. I think they would want to be found, and I think their families would want them back even if the families have stopped waiting. I think the not knowing is worse than the knowing, even after 70 years. I think it is worse for the families now than it would have been for them in the 1950s, because the not knowing has had 70 years to be passed down. I think when somebody opens that door and finds them, and the news story happens, break time .05s, the great-grandchildren who are walking around right now not knowing, I think their lives will be worse for a week and better for the rest of their lives. I think they will be relieved. I think that is the right word. I think that is what they will be. I am crying. I had not noticed. The tears are warm in the cold, and they go down my face slowly. Hannah comes around the desk, and she puts her arms around me. I had not expected her to do that. She is shorter than me, and her hair smells faintly of the same fabric softener my grandmother used, and she holds me with both arms and her chin against my shoulder, and we stand there in the buffer zone for what I think is about 2 minutes, although I do not check the clock. The compressors hum, the fluorescents hum, the building goes on around us. Okay, she says against my shoulder. Okay. Break time .05s, we'll call them together. You don't have to. I do have to. I should have done it 19 years ago. I'm going to do it now. Okay. At 7, when the day shift comes in. We'll wait until the day shift is here so there's somebody to mind the rooms. Then we'll go to the buffer zone and we'll call them from the desk phone, and we'll wait for them to arrive and we'll tell them everything. Together, okay. And then you'll quit. What? You'll quit, Marta. You will not work the next night shift. You will not work any night shift here ever again. I am telling you this as your trainer and as the person who has had this job for 19 years, and I am telling you that you are not going to spend the rest of your life inside the corridor where this happened. Break time .05s. You are going to finish your master's and you are going to do conservation work and you are going to look at paper for the rest of your life and not at this. You are too young. What about you? She pulls back. She looks at me. The gray eyes are wet. I am going to my sister. It is 6:48 in the morning. The day shift man, who is not Wojcik but a different man whose name is Krzysztof, has just come through the airlock. He is putting his lunch in the mini-fridge. He has not noticed yet that the room is full of a quiet that is different from the usual handover quiet. Hannah stands up. She picks up the desk phone. She looks at me. I nod. She dials. The phone rings twice. Somebody picks up. Jean Dubry, Hannah says. Her voice is steady. My name is Hannah Mazurek. I work at the cold storage facility on Brzezinska Street. Break time .05s. I need to report a crime that has been continuing inside this building since approximately 1954. There are 2 people in a refrigerated room here. I have known about them for 19 years. The man who hired me knew about them for 26 years. I am going to give you the address and I am going to stay on the line and I am going to wait for you to arrive. She gives the address. She listens. She says yes a few times. She says, I will. We will both wait. She listens again. She says yes. She is my trainee. She is the one who decided to call you. She has been here for 1 shift. She listens. Thank you, she says. We will be here. She hangs up. Krzysztof is standing in the doorway of the buffer zone with a sandwich in his hand. His mouth is open. He has not said anything yet. Break time .05s. He is looking at Hannah and at me and at the phone, and he is trying to understand whether what he has just heard is a joke or a drill or a real thing. He decides, slowly, that it is a real thing. He puts the sandwich down on the desk. He sits down in the 3rd chair, the one that has been empty all night, the one that was Stefan's chair and then Hannah's chair and was going to be my chair and is now nobody's chair. What, he says. Krzysztof, Hannah says gently. Sit, I will explain. We have about 12 minutes before they get here, she explains. I sit and watch her explain. I watch her face as she does it. The tiredness is leaving it, slowly, in a way I can see in real time. The way you can sometimes see the color come back into the face of somebody who has been holding their breath. Break time .05s. By the time the sirens are audible from the parking lot, her face is a face I have not seen yet. A face I think might be the face she had before 1978 came down the corridor through a phone call and a refrigeration unit and a man named Stefan and reached her in 2004 and stayed in her for 19 years. The sirens get closer. The corridor is colder than the rooms. The compressors hum. Hannah stands up. She picks up her quilted jacket. She does not put it on. She holds it folded over her arm. Come on, she says to me. Let's go let them in. We walk down the corridor together. We walk past rooms 1 through 7. We walk past the unnumbered door at the end. Hannah does not look at it. I do not look at it either. We pass it and we keep walking into the buffer zone and through the airlock and out into the cold morning of the parking lot, where the first police car is just pulling through the gate, and the sky over Łódź is the gray of cold iron, and Hannah takes my hand for a second, and then lets go and walks toward the car.